Well, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate, your time. Just had dinner. Let's get on with it. If we recapitulate, we just learned about the flying monkeys in the last video. Those who plan injustice will harvest disaster. There's going to be people that will set out against your relationship. They could be family members, they could be family members on the partner's side, but they are going to plant injustice against you and try and ruin your relationship. They're envious of you, they're envious of the relationship, they want the attention of the person that you're with back. And they'll do whatever they have to unjustly to make that happen, but unfortunately at the end of it, their reign of terror comes to an end. It all comes back around to get them. Blessed are those who are generous, verse 9 of Proverbs 22, because they feed the poor. Blessed are those who are generous, because they feed the poor. Jesus said in the similitudes, blessed are the poor. Let's have a look at that, shall we, in Matthew 5. The Beatitudes. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for Him. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for Him. I think that's a fantastic interpretation of it. For theirs is there, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs, if they want it. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for Him. For the kingdom of heaven is theirs, if they want it. Some people just don't want to go to heaven, and there's not much we can do to change that. But blessed are the generous, blessed are those who are generous, because they feed the poor. So there's a blessing that comes by feeding the poor. Now, are you ready, viewers? Are you ready? Are you ready to get into it? Let's get into it. Narcissistic people are poor. People that live in their sinful nature are poor. Really poor. We just read the sinful nature, the person in their sinful nature, they plan injustice and they harvest disaster. These people are living a life of disaster. That's why they're poor. They're not just poor financially, they're poor spiritually, they're poor psychologically. They run on their emotions, they feed and fuel each other however they can, be it just or unjust. They don't care who they harm on the way, but it all ends in disaster. My last relationship ended up in disaster. For this reason, too many interferers. It all just ended up in disaster. But their reign of terror, I'm out of that now, but their reign of terror will come to an end. I don't want to be there when it does. These people don't realize you don't mess with people of the light. You don't mess with Christian people. They've come to do good. If you frighten them away, you're making a statement to the universe that darkness is more important than light. And that kind of thinking, that terrorizing thinking. See, these people terrorize business that they have no right to have any part of. They terrorize people. They terrorize their relationships, these flying monkeys, family members and everything, until everything's ruined. But you're out of it. You won't be around when their reign of terror comes to an end, and it will come to an end. They could cause the mother to meet some other bloke and he physically abuses her. And then they try and come in and big note themselves and they get assaulted. They could get robbed. They could get kicked out of the house by the new boyfriend. You don't know. One thing we do know is they've harvested disaster. They've pushed away the light. And one way or another, however the Lord decides, their reign of terror is going to come to an end. The narcissist, it doesn't end well for the aging narcissists or the young ones. So, to be generous, if you're in a relationship with a narc, if you want to be generous to these people that are neglecting the relationship, they've swayed away from common sense, they're pulling the relationship down bit by bit, they're breaking it to pieces, they're aggravating you, antagonizing you, neglecting you, they're just coming for supply and then they're on their way again. Tell them the truth. A lot of these people talk about spirit and truth. Tell them the truth. Tell them how wrong they are doing what they're doing. Tell them how they haven't. You want to be generous? Tell them what they're doing to you. Tell them what can make the relationship better. And see what they do. See if they're fair income. 9 times out of 10 you'll find that they're not. And then what are you going to do? That's your opportunity to take the blessing. If somebody's not responding to what you're sharing with them, you're feeding them the information to keep this relationship alive, right? They're acting in a poor fashion. You're trying to keep the relationship alive. You've got the courage to stand there and say something. You're feeding them, hey, come on, this ain't happening. Why can't this be resolved? What's the problem here? Right? Why is this happening to us? Why have you allowed that to happen? Why haven't you texted me back? Why don't you turn up on time? What's the problem now? What's happened this time? Where you know, you shouldn't have to teach people how to love you. And when you are generous enough to bring the issue to the table, that's your opportunity to see what type of person you're really with. If they don't resolve the issue, you're with the wrong person. They haven't got the value. They just haven't got the value. You're not valuable enough for them to understand and receive the generosity of your courage to feed them the information they need to have about you to make the relationship survive. That's your opportunity. That's the fork in the road. There's a lot of cowards out there that won't tell their partner what's going on. They won't confront their partner when it's all going to pieces. Hey, you're overspending. Hey, that's not the truth of what happened. Hey, why don't you turn up on time? Where were you? Why didn't you ring me? Why don't you contact me? I've seen all this 1,000 times, and you have to resolve the issue while you have the opportunity. You've got to. And that's being generous. You see, there's a lot of passive aggression. There's a lot of passive sabotage. People don't talk about what the problem is, and they're not being generous. They're not bringing the blessing. The blessing is, look, I need you here, and you're just not here. The blessing is, let's resolve this issue. This, and this. The blessing might be, look, we've tried everything we can and we're not going to work out. I'm sorry, we have to go our own separate ways. You're not wasting their time, you're not wasting your time. That's generosity. That's the blessing. If they want to come into the blessing, right, and this is what the narcissist won't do, the sinful nature person won't do. You're offering the blessing. Please, can we fix this? You're being generous. I'm sharing with you. I'm being transparent with you. But a lot of people just want to remain poor. They just want to remain poor. And this is where the narcissist can't win. This is the thing that destroys the narcissist. When you're looking them in the eye and they know you're for real and you're saying, this needs to be fixed. and they're in the corner and they can't fix it, they're going to have a narcissistic injury or a collapse. Because once the narcissist or the sinful nature person knows, you know they're being wicked, that they've gotten to the poor stage in their relationship, they're trying to devalue everything, micro-incrementally. And if they don't fix it, that you're going, you've blessed that person. You've shown them that there's a way of life in which they're living that doesn't work. You've had the courage to show them that. And you might be the only person that ever does, because we live in a world of a lot of cowards. They sidestep everything. They blame shift. They make excuses for people that are wrong. They even edify people that are doing wrong. Sometimes when you let the narcissist go, the reason why they can't get you out of their head is because you've done the right thing by them. They know it, and they were too poor to come into it. They were too psychologically poor to come into it. They didn't have the muscle to come into the blessing, which leaves them in their own disaster. See, the sinful nature person, the narcissist or whatever the problem is, they want you to think that you're the borrower and they're the lender. But that only works until you come into this place here where you're being generous enough to them, to bless them enough to say, this is what you're doing to affect me. This is not good for the relationship. I'm not going to make it because of what your poor behavior. I'm asking you to fix it or I'm leaving. And they'll usually turn around and say, it's your fault. They'll blame shift. It's your fault. And that's when you say goodbye. And that's the best thing you can do for that person, because you might be the only person that they ever get the opportunity to see themselves the way they are, poor, heading for disaster. Their narcissistic reign of terror is about to come to an end in your life. It'll go on, but it will go on without you. And while disaster's falling on them and the people around them, you're walking in the blessing, because you've been generous enough to be transparent and strong enough to say, you're hurting me, or your flying monkeys are hurting me, nobody's doing anything about it, I'm out. That's the greatest gift that you can give to somebody that's hurting you. Because at that point, you jettison yourself from the poorness, the poor behavior, and you give that person the opportunity to look in the mirror and say, I need to change some shit, and I need to change it fast. But you go complete no contact. And whatever they decide to do after that, they can thank you for in heaven. Because she might be the only person that's given the opportunity to them to come out of the darkness, out of the poorness, and into the light and the blessing. I'll quickly close with Matthew 5, and you're all familiar with this. One day as he saw the crowds gathering, that's the Lord Jesus Christ, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor and realizes their need for him. This is what we're talking about in Proverbs. You could be the person that is generous enough and strong enough to say to this person, this is what's happened, I can't do it anymore. And that could bring your loss to that person could bring that person so far down on their knees, they turn and scream out to God, help me. out of my disaster. I am a disaster. I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict, I'm addicted to nicotine, my life is falling through my fingers, I've just lost someone that I care about, they've shown me what the problem is. Save me from my disaster, I need you. And that could all come to that person by you being honest enough and generous enough to say, I can't be with you anymore, I have nothing left. And that might help them to realize their need for their Creator. Because the kingdom of heaven is theirs, but only if they want it. I'm Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you for joining me.